Hi, and welcome to this episode in our series Vitamin Z's Yoga to prepare you for a great night's sleep. So, this will be a quick episode. And as you can see, I didn't even bother to roll out my yoga mat. You can easily do this on a nice soft carpeted surface or a rug. You may want a couple of blocks with you for this practice or a pillow or bolster. But as always, you can do this entire practice without any props whatsoever. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, in a pigeon pose. Coming into our pigeon pose, starting here on the right side, we're going to bring the right foot up and behind the left wrist. So from here, we'll extend the left leg out behind us and maybe give a peek behind us to make sure that that left knee is facing downward towards the mat. And then check into your body so that you notice, are you shifting, maybe listing more onto the right side because that right hip is heavier and we're bent into the right knee. If you feel like you're falling to the right, maybe grab a blanket or a block if you're up a little higher and support that right hip so that you can feel that the weight is really centered down through the midline and in between both of the hips. From here, you can go ahead and walk the hands forward, shifting forward in your pigeon pose, or maybe even extending the arms all the way out if that feels really good for you today in your pigeon. Wherever you're at, we're just going to sink into that hip and start to relax. Now, if you want to create a little more depth in your pigeon pose, if you're like, hey, I feel pretty loose today, you can start to walk the hands over to the left at a diagonal. So you're walking them away from your right knee. And then again, staying forward down under the forearms or even lowering all the way down into your belly with the arms extended. That's going to take a little bit more depth into your right hip. Purely optional. You can totally stay in your pigeon pose and remain where you're at. Wonderful. From here, we're going to walk our hands back towards center if we were off at that diagonal, and then push the hands deeply into the earth to rise up, shift the weight onto the right hip, and then bring that left leg around. Finding our fire log pose. Fire log's pretty intense on the knees, so you can try to stack the shins. Left shin would stack directly onto the right. Feet are both flexed to kind of protect the knee joint. If that's still too much on the knees, let's just take that left shin and place it right in front of the right shin so it's nice and on the floor. If you want to stay in either position, you can hang up nice and high, or you can start to walk yourself forward and allow yourself to drape over the front of the shins. Find what works for you. If the knee is lifted in your fire log with the shins stacked, just know that that is perfectly acceptable, and that's quite normal in most of our bodies. So as long as you are avoiding any sharpness into the knees, then go ahead and remain in that position. Allow the hips and the tail to sink nice and heavy into the mat, and feel yourself grounding down towards the earth. The upper body just kind of remains heavy and loose. We'll go ahead and give the head a little shake from left to right, relaxing the neck and the back of the head. On the next breath, we'll go ahead and push ourselves down to rise up. And we're going to use the hands to unwind the legs. Go ahead and take a couple of windshield wipers. Allow the knees to softly fall from the left and then over to the right. We'll take a couple on each side. And then when you're ready, we're going to cross the ankles. Allow the feet to come through. We'll pass through tabletop, and then we'll find our pigeon pose now on the left side. So we'll step the left foot up behind the right wrist. Have your angle on your left shin, whatever suits you. Bringing the heel in closer to the body feels a little better for most bodies. And then from your pigeon pose, you can absolutely stay nice and high in your pigeon pose. If you like, you can walk yourself forward, coming onto blocks or maybe forearms, or reaching all the way out with the upper body. And we'll relax here into the left hip. Now, if you took that diagonal walk over to the opposite side, this time we'll walk the hands over the right side at a diagonal, maybe staying up high. Sometimes that can be a lot of weight to hold in the upper body, or you can lower down onto your forearms or bring those forearms to a pair of blocks. This gets a lot deeper into the left hip, so if you want to leave it out altogether and just hang out for these next few breaths in your pigeon pose, go right ahead. Find your variation and whatever suits you for your body today. We're not trying to break any barriers before bedtime. We're just trying to release the body and just remain in this moment here, in this space right now. Finding the awareness of our breath, following it as it travels through the body as we release any tension physically and hopefully some mental tension that you may be carrying with you. Any thoughts from the day or any duties or obligations that you may have coming up tomorrow. We're just here to find peace in this moment. Start to walk the hands back to center if you are on that diagonal, and then go ahead and push yourself back upright. We're going to shift the weight onto the left hip and then bring that right leg around, finding our variation of fire log on this side. So if you want the shins on the ground, this time the right shin would be in front of the left. If you want to take the stack, you're going to stack the right shin onto the left shin and then flex the feet from this position. You can lower down, go ahead and fold at the hips, allow yourself to round over the top of the legs. And then think about shifting the weight into the back, into the glutes and the hips and the tailbone, feeling this connection into the mat, reaching back away from you at the same time you have the weight of the upper body, stretching and folding forward. Feel that nice benefit into the lower back and into the hips as you have these two opposing forces. On the next breath, let's go ahead and inhale, rise up. Use the hands to unfurl those legs. And then we're going to take our windshield wipers, drop them from left to right. Couple of rounds on each side just to release the hips. And then once more, we'll go ahead and cross the ankles, come into our tabletop position. From tabletop, we'll walk our hands out so we find our puppy pose. So we're going to extend that distance, taking the hands away from the knees, and then we'll start to softly lower down. Allow the forehead and maybe the chest also to come down to the earth. The belly can remain nice and soft. Allow the lower back to arch. if it's in your practice and it feels safe and comfortable on your neck, you could take the chin to the earth. I'm going to do that just mostly for mic purposes and also because this is part of my practice. But as you're here, just enjoy this shoulder opener. Feel your breath expand through the body. Inhale through the nose. And release it out. Relaxing through the forehead, the jaw, and the chest. To come out of our puppy pose, we're going to shift forward onto the forearms and then start to draw the arms back in more closely to the knees. From here, we're going to open the knees up nice and wide as we would in our wide-legged child's pose. Bring the big toes together and shift the hips back. So the arms are now extended fully long and out in front of us, and we're sinking back into a wide-legged child's pose. Finding a twist here, we're going to take that right hand and just wind it underneath the left armpit. Bring the right side of the face onto the earth. So we have a little twist here in our wide-legged child's pose. On your next inhale, let's go ahead and unwind it. Bring that right arm out. Align it with the left, and then we're going to go ahead and exhale. Bring the left arm underneath, twisting and facing the right side of the room now. As the left side of the face comes to meet the mat, the back of the left shoulder is resting down. Finding our twist, the hips are settling back towards the heels, but it does not need to meet the heels. We just feel that heaviness into the lower body. Perhaps with every exhale, you feel yourself sinking down a little more, feeling more and more grounded in your twisted child's pose. On your next inhale, let's unwind. We're going to bring the arms back to parallel, sinking back into our wide-legged child's pose. From here, I'm going to have you inhale, lift the hips up just slightly, reach the hands, maybe crawl the fingertips out about 1/2 inch to 1 inch away from you. Keep the hands where they're at, and then sink the hips back down. They may not come back as far as they did before, but hopefully you're feeling a little deeper stretch into the under part of the arms and into the side body. On the next inhale, let's bring the hips up just slightly. Walk the fingertips maybe 1 inch or so away from you. It doesn't have to be very much. And then from here, keep the hands where they're at. And then sink the lower body back down. Allow the hips to reach for the heels. Maybe feel more of a stretch into the low back by creating more length here throughout the entire body from fingertips all the way to the tailbone. Inhale. And exhale. On the next inhale, we'll rise up, coming to our tabletop, and we're going to prepare for our shavasana to close out this class. Now, this is where you may want to grab a couple of blocks and either a bolster or a pillow. We're going to do a supported variation of shalambasana or locust pose, which I think we all know is a really intense back bend, but this is a supported back bend and it feels wonderful. If you do not have any props near you, you can come into a prone shavasana and lay down with your belly down on the mat and then place the forehead onto the back of the hands like so, and find your rest here for the class just on your belly. Now, if you have your props nearby and want to give this a go, we'll grab our blocks, we'll grab a pillow, and from our tabletop, With our hands right underneath our shoulders, we're going to take our blocks and place them about at the very tip of our fingertips. Just getting a reasonable idea of where is a good starting point for our blocks. What we want to aim for is to have our shoulders resting on the blocks and our chest to come in between the block space and allow the chest to fall through. So as we lower down, coming onto our bellies, you may need to make some slight adjustments. So find your block, have it right underneath the left and the right shoulder. I like it kind of lined up with the very top of my armpit. Make the same adjustment for the other block, and then pull your bolster or your pillow down. Allow the forehead to rest right onto that cushioned surface. And now you have a space underneath you to rest and also to breathe easily. The arms are along the sides. The hands, the palms of the hands are facing upward, just as we would in shavasana. And then the feet are nice and wide so that we have some space for the low back to relax. From here, we're going to settle in with some nice peaceful breaths. As we inhale, we'll feel everything expand from the front, the back, and both sides of the body. Feel everything rise. And as you exhale, maybe feel the chest sink a little more towards the earth. Feel the wideness across the collarbone. Allow the shoulders just to relax and sink into the blocks. And the head remains heavy yet supported by your pillow or bolster. Finding a few breaths here. This is where we're going to close our class. So you can remain in your supported shalambhasana or your prone shavasana with your forehead onto the back of your hands. Enjoying this nice, restful, supported posture. And when you are ready, you can start to wake up the lower body by bending the knees, perhaps drawing the heels in towards the glutes, lifting and lower the feet up off of the earth, and then slowly shift the hands to come to the sides of the blocks and press down into the earth. Shift the hips back so that we take a seat onto our heels as we slowly end our class. And hopefully you're feeling more acclimated to have a peaceful night's journey. I hope you enjoyed this class. Be sure to watch for other classes in this series. As always, I hope you have a great night. Make it a good one. Bye.